Hey, it's Dr. Fred with Elite Coaching here at Chiro United podcast again. See, we're getting the momentum. We started this last week with Deed and Joe. I'm actually flying solo on this one. We usually do it with Deed Harrison and Joe Ferrantelli. And man, it's just a great honor, Dr. Patrick Gentempo, to have you on here, taking the time. I'm a member of UAC, and I've gotten to know you. But also, man, I was listening to you way back on the On Purpose tapes. That was decades ago, right?
We're still doing it.
Yeah, I know. It was On Purpose and DE, man, and Jim Sigafus. Yep. We used to listen to those all the time. That was a foundation of our philosophy.
Right on.
And since then, you've done so many great things in and out of chiropractic that just wanted some of the CVP people in that whole culture. You know, sometimes people get so locked in their niche and in that culture, they don't look around. And what you're doing, everybody needs to know about it. So I appreciate you being on here today.
Thanks. Great to be here with you, Fred. Whenever I get together with you, we have nothing but great conversations. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, it's all good. Like the one we had right before we started recording.
That's right.
Yeah, it's all good. So just give me an idea, man, where you started. I know you have a great story of, getting hit, literally. Talking about getting hit by a truck. How you found chiropractic.
So I got hit by the truck actually after I was a chiropractor, but it kind of straightened me out on a couple of things. Yeah. So I found chiropractic because, like many people, I was a medical failure. I had injured myself in high school wrestling, really bad neck injury, and as typical, they take you off the mat, take you to a medical doctor. I got I had neck pain, spasm, inflammation, etc. So they gave me painkillers, anti-inflammatories, and muscle relaxers. And as is fortunate for me, and as is life is typically, when you have crises, they cause a shift. That at the time, it seems like a really bad thing, but in hindsight, it almost turns out to be a real blessing. And that was this for me. I was off the mat. I was in pain. I was taking drugs. The drugs were making me sick. Of course, it felt like a very miserable time in my life. But then my mother said, this isn't working. We need to do something different. Takes me to the chiropractor who you talked about DE. So it was the office of Dr. Dick Santo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And Dr. Santo, I saw his associate. He was 1 year out of chiropractic school out of Palmer, a guy named Bob Natush. And, he gave me my first adjustment. I was instantly like 90% better. And when I got off the table, as far as symptomatically better, at least, obviously it's a lot more to it than that. But I got up and I was like, why didn't anybody else do this to me? I didn't understand. I thought, it's just another kind of doctor. I didn't realize there was an entirely separate philosophy, et cetera. But then after asking questions for a period of time, he would, as I was going in for subsequent visits, he would explain things to me. One day over lunch, and this is an important lesson. Here I am, kid in high school, thinking about wanting, what I want to do with my life. I want to do something in healthcare, be some kind of a doctor, I thought. And he said, why don't you sit with me over lunch and let me explain the whole thing to you. So the guy took 45 minutes to explain the chiropractic story to me while I was having lunch after an adjustment. And literally, I walked out of that office knowing I wanted to be a chiropractor. And what's interesting is that these opportunities to influence people are around us all the time. And very often we're not speaking up, or we get numb to it. We just kind of like get caught up in our own heads, and we're not present to what's around us. And and a lot of that has to do because we're very distracted, especially today with technology, 24 hours news cycle, drama in the world, etc. And I'm not saying that you have to tune it out 100%, but what I am saying is once in a while you have to just take a moment, look around, and connect, as a human being. Because the chiropractors, they're seeing a large volume, I think at least 150 visits a day in that practice, maybe more. They easily, could have adjusted me, get on to the next one, just get on the next one. But instead, he was seeing a young mind who had an interest in what was going on and decided that he wanted to connect as compared to have some peace for his lunch and be, solitude. Right. He decided to connect with me. And there's an epilogue to the story that I find rather interesting. many years later, I'm now, running CLA. We started CLA, and I was, its CEO for many, many years. So, we were in a 12,000 plus square foot office in a big glass building, with, 55 staff and running a fairly large company, that was serving, thousands and thousands of chiropractors around the world. And we were selling the Insight technology. And for those who don't know, I sold that company about 6 years ago, almost 6.5, I guess. And there was a order I was looking at, reviewing reports, and I saw that there was a Natush, same name, on the sheet, and and it was a different first name. But I said, let me call it. So I picked up the phone. I called him. I said, are you related to Bob Natush? He said, yeah, that's my father. So his son had become a chiropractor, and ended up becoming a client of CLA. And I said, is your father still practicing? He said, yeah, he's still in New Jersey, actually. I said, can you give me his contact information? So anyway, I reached out to him and invited him to come to CLA headquarters. He wasn't that far away. And I'll never forget, here's the guy, and I remember him clearly. Shows up. Obviously, this is going 25 years later or whatever, so looking a bit older, but I recognized him instantly. And I'll never forget, I was walking him and giving him a tour of the office and explaining what we did. And I remember just looking at him saying, I want you to understand how, because, and incidentally, he did not remember the conversation at all. Yeah, he didn't remember me. He didn't remember the conversation that he had, right? It was incidental to him.
Right.
I said, I just want you to understand that the influence you had because you had a conversation with a teenage boy many, many years ago, what it's translated into today in the world. And as he was walking around looking at just all the stuff we're doing, looking at what was up on our walls, looking at, just the way we operated and what what our influence was, there were tears coming down his face. And then of course, tears coming down my face because, here it was. And it was the epitome of, what BJ said. You never know how far reaching something you may think, do, or say today can affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And if you look at the scale of CLA, in my tenure there, we had, roughly 9,000 chiropractic clients that served millions and millions and millions of people. The net increased impact of the financial economic impact we had on those practices, we calculate to about $2.2 billion, meaning in revenue that they generated as a result of our influence. So it was I wanted to have this in his mind to understand you did something that mattered in a big way in the world, and you don't even remember doing it.
Right. Isn't that crazy, man? That I could see why it'd bring a tear to your eye. I put a lump in my throat, and I know, you're very much of an intellect, yet you have a very spiritual foundation as well. And so when you tell that story, it's like when you say come into presence and come into awareness, obviously you've coached a bunch of people. I coach people. You talk to hundreds of chiropractors and you think people that have problems getting new patients, it's like, man, look out your window, wherever you go, like when you're really aware and someone's standing right next to you in a grocery line, rubbing their neck or, and it's such an elevated thought to think, not only am I getting a patient, one thing our mantra in chiropractic is we don't create chiropractic patients, we create chiropractic leaders. Yet to think that person you're talking to could end up being a chiropractor at any age. I mean, we had people in their 60s in chiropractic school, in their 40s.
Right.
I was just a freaking college punk at 23, but the average age in our class was 34.
Yeah. Yeah. The second for my class too, I was the youngest to graduate out of my class, but for most of the people there, it was second career.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? That person standing right next to you could be that person that gets that one thing like you that changes the world. And now, you've done so much in chiropractic, and now you're doing so much outside of chiropractic with Revealed films. And, tell us kind of the impetus with that and what your inspiration is and the projects that you've worked on.
So the interesting thing is, I guess, it's a funny characterization when I hear it, and I understand it. This quote unquote outside of chiropractic, but in my heart and mind, nothing's outside of chiropractic. It's my philosophy for life, right?
Right.
So it's a matter of, am I serving chiropractors? Am I serving the public? Am I serving patients? Who am I serving?
It's all the same.
But the principles are what applies. And it was my chiropractic philosophy and my value structure in chiropractic that got me pissed off enough to start this venture. The little bit of the backstory probably is important. So SB 277 passes in California, which was the vaccine mandate bill, which was going to really start having a big adverse impact on parental rights to choose whether or not they want to vaccinate their kids, and basically take away all of the exemptions that exist in the current law for parents. And, I was, pretty upset about that. And then a lot of parents started to take their kids out of school to homeschool because they couldn't put them in school because of SB 277. So they started to propose a thing called SB 18, which was then going to interfere with, basically, if a parent took their kids out of school and wouldn't vaccinate them, it was kind of read between the lines, but the inference was that the state may be able to step in and take these kids from the parents, saying that they're unfit. So that was just beyond the pale.
That was the line in the sand, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, listen, I need to do something, and I got with Bo Pierce, who was my partner in Circle of Docs, and basically said, what are people reading? And it turned out our vaccine articles were being read. Like the average read on something we would post would be, a couple thousand, good ones, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. He said, well, 1.5 million people read our Gardasil article. I said, what? 1.5 million people? How'd they even find us?
Yeah.
We're not even, and then another article was over 1 million. I'm like, wow. Well, all right, now let's go out there, and there's an appetite. Let's tell them what they really need to know.
Yeah.
And I got together with Jeff Hayes, who I've been in many of his documentaries, and it was a project at the beginning, not a company. I just said, hey, listen, I'll fund this thing. I think I'd maybe put up 150 grand or so to help put together what was this thing we called Vaccines Revealed, which we created a 9-part docuseries and interviewed, all the experts. I was out there traveling, interviewing. We got, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It was like a magic carpet ride. Next thing you know, we committed to something. I had no idea where it would take us, and stepped on the magic carpet, and we were just, things unfolded in ways that I can't really even begin to explain. It was magical. It was somewhat mysterious. It was, no doubt, felt like divine intervention into our purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And we launched it, and it went worldwide, and millions of views of those videos. And the whole thing was, we were giving it away free. We just put it online. Anybody could register to watch it for free. And if you wanted to buy the series, you could buy it. So it ended up generating millions of dollars. It was very profitable. I didn't expect even to get my money back, quite frankly. And it made a difference in the fight, this vaccine fight. And of course, this is, in my mind, this is a very chiropractic issue. The rights of individuals, it falls back to people having a certain health philosophy about, are they born? Is there God-given innate ability to function and be healthy and express health? Do you look at that as being inadequate and requiring, this type of intervention like vaccines? Or do you feel like you're born whole and that your body is capable of healing and regulation, provided nothing's interfering with that program, et cetera? And, I believe in the rights of human beings to be able to choose for themselves and for their children, et cetera. So to me, it was a moral issue. It's steeped in my chiropractic philosophy. And we went out there and did it. So when we saw, I have to tell you, it was the most passionate fun I've had in a long time. I mean, I never worked so hard. I was called a baby killer and a conspiracy theorist and all kinds of horrible names. And I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, so a little bit more.
Yeah. So just spell my name right and keep talking. But we're getting this message out there.
Yep.
And it's not like it's fun to be attacked, but it is very fulfilling to do something that you're passionate about. And next thing you know, we saw we were good at this, and we decided to actually organize it into a company that we call Revealed Films. And we have since, our next project was Gmos Revealed. And that also hit a huge audience, struck a nerve, because that whole GMO issue is another serious health issue that affects us all. And the things that these have in common with GMOs and vaccines: lies, fraud, deception, malfeasance, big agriculture. So, we took on big agriculture, big pharma, the government. It was all kinds of stuff that we went after that was pretty interesting. And after those two projects, we said, geez, this has all been so dark and kind of like, tough. We wanted to look for something more inspirational. So we decided, as a third project, do something that would be, that would shine some light rather than try to show everybody.
Literally shine light with what you did next, huh?
Yeah. So we did Christ Revealed. And that was a life-changing project to go explore the history, the evidence, and the inspiration of Jesus. So we had, interviewed these scholars. I approach everything very intellectually, and we had approached, the apologetic community and the Christian community and these varying scholars and archaeologists, et cetera. Fascinating and inspiring stuff. And then we went to Israel with a full film crew for 2 weeks. And I'd never been to Israel before. I really wanted to go. I was always on my bucket list to go and do that. And I do a lot of adventure travel. And I got to tell you, it was a life-changing experience there. Interviewed some amazing people. It was in literally new archaeological digs that were seismic as far as their impact and our understanding of the world and world history and the life of Jesus and the Bible, et cetera, and talking to these scholars firsthand. And so that was, I think, an amazing, epic journey of a lifetime. And that was all, also was very popular in the world and still is right now. So we released that, I think, in November. Yeah. We'll be re-releasing it again in Easter, prior to Easter. But that was amazing. So that was something to kind of refill us and fuel us with a lot of inspiration. And now we just started production actually this past week on our next project, which is Addiction Revealed.
Nice.
That's going to be a brutal one. There's a lot of bad, ugly stuff there, a lot of misinformation. So we're on it, and it's also going to be a strong message of hope for addicts. But I think most people completely misunderstand addiction. I believe they have a moral judgment against addicts that's maybe not quite on mark. That's right. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you the role that chiropractors can play in this. And one of the things we do in every single one of our projects is we include chiropractic in a very clear way. And the chiropractors have shined through our project. And obviously I'm known as the host of the whole thing. The audience knows I'm a chiropractor. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot of new understanding of addiction, and also the role that chiropractors can play in helping this addiction crisis that's going on right now in the world.
Well, those are huge. I mean, I didn't see all the videos on all the series, but when you go back to vaccination, like obviously, that's hitting a button. Our whole life is committed to that. But when you watch that, the feeling you get is you get irritated, you get fired up, but it's frustrating and it's wrong. And, I mean, you can name all the judgmental words, for all us spiritually evolved people. It certainly gets you fired up. And then you look at GMO Revealed, and then it's like, holy crap, man, it kind of does that again. Get you all fired up and get you pissed off and irritated. And then you go to Christ Revealed, and it just puts a lump in your throat. Like just watching you, and if the viewer puts their self in your shoes with that opportunity, going through that experience, man, what a life-changing, all of it's life-changing. And that one just hits a different chord, like it hits you in the depths of your soul. Regardless of what religion you are, just the history, and I'm sure to be there was amazing.
Yeah, it was, we wanted to make this. I mean, obviously, I think for Christians, I know for a fact now, because it's been out there, they found it very satisfying. But I can't tell you how many other people who were I don't know, really what category to put them in. They were maybe born in a particular religion, for whatever reason, kind of lost their interest or their faith in that particular religion, but didn't lose a sense of that there's something more to know and something more to experience, and something that's divine in this world and in this universe. And they were able to take the journey and be inspired by it also. So, I didn't, and that's why, we looked at the history, the evidence, and the inspiration, meaning let's look at the historical record here. I think anybody, no matter what your faith is or isn't, could be interested in that historical record. And then the evidence for that record, which I found astounding. I mean, things I didn't know, a lot of things I didn't know, and things I didn't expect, that we were able, to kind of examine. And then, of course, we want to talk to people saying, based on this, how has this inspired your life? What has it done? And those, some of those interviews were just like, you can't help but get goosebumps and tears. So yeah, we definitely have that, that sort of, let's invite the world into this experience. And I think we hit the mark pretty well. On the other ones, we're pretty direct. In other words, we didn't get there and say, hey, let's tell the both sides of vaccines. Or it's like, the other side's been telling their story for a while. Yeah. Let's look at the other side. And we were, it was a pretty, no mincing of words, and certainly there are people we had that were maybe from the other side, in some of these issues, especially in the GMOs one. And then some people who were like in the vaccines said, they were like, we're not anti-vaccine, but we believe that parents should have choice, and that vaccines could be made safer. So there's some of that in there, but ultimately, my position was pretty
it was pretty direct.
And it was pretty direct. Yeah.
Well, I can only imagine what you're doing next with addiction. It is greatly misunderstood, and what people don't realize, I mean, about people that are addicts is it's just a vehicle. I'm actually writing a spiritually based life coaching system called You're More Powerful, where it helps a person come from a divine reference point. There's your divinity and your humanity. It's which reference point do you have? And addiction is really a vehicle for the pain. Like when you listen to these people's lives and what they're focused on, like Tony Robbins and NLP, when really powerful people, when they focus on their pain, they can be the worst drug addicts. But also when they get through it and they focus on their power, their world changes. I mean, I'm in Genius Network. Half the people in there were addicts at one time, and now they have a $500 million company or something. That woman that can take herself to 80 pounds with bulimia and almost kill herself. When she focuses on her power, man, she can change the world. So it's like, what are they? They're people like you and me, but they've been through some stuff that they haven't gotten over, and drugs or alcohol or whatever, sex, it's a vehicle.
It is. And we just interviewed the first interview, which is staggering because this guy is so hot, as far as well-known and popular right now in the scene, is a guy named Johann Hari. He wrote the book Chasing the Scream. And, he's been on, all the, primetime news shows, talk shows, et cetera. Just saw him, he's just on Fox News. He's been on Bill Maher. He's on, cuts across all the varying, political factions. He's British. But this book, Chasing the Scream, is a very powerful book. But, he makes a very passionate argument. First of all, he talks about the war on drugs and the 100-year history of the war on drugs. And,
right.
It ain't working. We've spent over $1 trillion, and it's getting worse. And that's, that's after we've completely, decimated Colombia, trying to, get rid of the drug lords, whatever work we're doing and continue to try to do on the borders. And this isn't about, immigration, I'm just talking about drugs getting across the borders. And the amount of incarceration that we, as far as putting people in jail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, after $1 trillion in 100 years and and declaring a war, we need a new idea.
Yeah.
we need a different point of view.
Yeah.
So he really did a brilliant job. He's an investigative, journalist. So he traveled the world talking to some really impressive experts, and looking at experiments that have been done in other places, like Portugal or in Switzerland, and looking at what their outcomes were. So it's kind of a fascinating look. And then the other, he, in his position, based on a lot of good factual data, was that, shaming an addict is not the way to get them to stop being an addict.
Right.
And so he feels like, because there's a lot of basic science research on rats and so on, that there's a loss of connection that will cause a person to become addicted. Because he looks at like, hey, look, when you're given morphine in the hospital, and you look at how many grandmothers and people with hip replacement, so on and all, how much of this stuff is prescribed. Most people have this impression that, oh, heroin, it automatically has, these hooks that once they get in you, anybody is susceptible, to becoming an addict. And it's simply not true. If you just look at data, because we're giving this stuff to people all the time from a prescriptive standpoint,
right.
And some do become addicts, but most don't.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in the populations? Why in New Hampshire, in that town, New Hampshire, where they have now this enormous spike in opiate addiction, which is happening in pockets, all over the world. Well, they're not genetically different than everybody else. The genetic distribution is going to be kind of uniform. What's going on in that town? Are there other factors, sociological factors, et cetera, which there are, that might cause somebody to be more predisposed towards addiction? So there's more to the story, more to the understanding, and then of course, what do you do when you have an addict? There's almost nobody that's not touched by this subject. That they either themselves, family members, friends, who have literally lives have been destroyed, and they see it firsthand. They witness it as a result of, addiction. And it's poignant. We're going to have to tell a lot of stories to do this right. It's not just the clinical side, but we got to tell the stories of families and addicts and so on. We're gearing up to, it's going to be fairly intense, but I'm hoping we deliver something out into the world that is going to shine a light on this subject in the right way.
Well, there's no doubt about that. What a tremendous life-changing experience, for you just to go through it, and then the impact it will make for people understanding what people go through. It brings compassion to that part of our humanity. So just great job. And anybody that, if you haven't seen the Revealed films, where would they go?
We're actually recreating the site, the general site for Revealed Films right now. But if you, for Gmos Revealed, just go to gmosrevealed.com.
Oh, there you go.
OS. Vaccines Revealed, just go to vaccinesrevealed.com. Christ Revealed, just go to christrevealed.com.
Cool. Yeah. And all of them are so, to say they're enlightening, almost as an underestimation, because there's so many emotions that you're going to go through. Ultimately enlightened, but there's going to be a whole spectrum of emotions that you go through before you get to enlightenment. That's for sure.
Yes.
One last thing, and just for the sake of time, in chiropractic, well, I mean, again, it's all chiropractic, but you have a group, UAC. I'm part of that. If you could just give a quick minute on your purpose, and I'd like to give a little testimonial on that.
Thank you. So Ultimate Achievers Club, or what we call UAC for short, was an experiment I started. I guess it's its 11th year coming up, and you've taken a position on the advisory board. So thank you very much for doing that. I keep getting reports back from the board chairs saying how great you are.
Well, I appreciate that.
You are. I mean, it's just you're a force of nature, and that's I love that about you. So basically. It was a group of my higher performing clients at CLA who said, hey, we love your seminars and programs and so on, but they're necessarily calibrated to the average chiropractor or the struggling chiropractor. Can you do something unique for you? You're running a couple of multi-million-dollar companies. You've got all these really cool contacts out there in the world that we'd like access to. What can you do? Can you do something special for us? I said, I began to realize, and you said you're also a member of Genius Network, and I know that a lot of my growth and development came from being a part of masterminds. Nothing existed in chiropractic, so I was outside chiropractic, with other entrepreneurial, successful people, and we'd get together and we'd share best practices and listen to speakers together and have this experience that continued to drive us toward higher and higher level success. So I decided to experiment with this and tried Inside Chiropractic, and it was about, I think, 15 people who joined, and the first meeting was like electric and magical, and everybody was really on fire because in the room it's curated. It's only people with a minimum level of success that we define that are in the room. Yeah. And in the UAC room, I think I can proudly and clearly say that it's the finest group of successful chiropractors in the world. And we've got some very, like yourself, we have very, very impressive people in there, and all doing things all different ways on all different levels. Some people with franchises of 30 plus practices, some people with just big individual practices like a Chris Zano, who's also got additional enterprises that he's involved in, and everything in between. So it's dynamic, it's stimulating. We get together 4 times a year, at live events, and we have these monthly mastermind hangouts. So there's all this process of creating a community of success-minded chiropractors. You have to be a chiropractor to be a member, and you have to have a certain level of success. So if anybody's interested in that and you want to learn more about it, go to UAC, stands for Ultimate Achievers Club, but UACchiro.com. And you can read the outline and kind of the overview of it. And if you feel like you're somebody that would benefit from the group and belongs in the group, but there's a form there you can fill out and submit. And then we follow up with you and get you deeper information, interview you, and then decide if we think it's a good fit. And if you think it's a good fit, to be in the group. We love to, we curate the room very well. We'd love to have the conversation with you. There's a lot of great chiropractors out there that need a home and need a community, and that, this is the place.
Right. Well, it's awesome. And I've been part of that, I think 3 years now or something. So it was an honor to be invited and to get in there. And you named a couple of really highly successful people, but you don't need to be a multimillionaire to get in there. You can be, if you have a successful practice, and the real benefit is the relationships, because you're coming into a family, but you come into an environment where people aren't talking about problems. They're talking about solutions. They're talking about friendships and relationships. And we always say in Elite, the 2 things that take your practice and your life to another level is mindset number 1 and systems number 2. And what you really get there, they say you're only as successful as the 5 people you hang around with, is you get to hang around and be brothers and sisters of people with the mindset, not only where you're at, but where you want to go. And, you can't help but leave there thinking on another level and with actual action steps that you can do on Monday that will make your life, you personally, and your practice grows and become a better leader. So, if you feel like, hey, I'm pretty successful, but I want something, I want to go to the next level. Not that you need something new, but you want to be in a group that you're inspired by, you can add inspiration and contribute to, and you can leave feeling good that you gave to other people. And in that process, you also leave with great gifts. That's my testimonial.
Great. Well, it's a great characterization, and you're exactly right. There's a certain sense of, for lack of a better term, glory when you're around people like this, and then when you contribute, you really feel empowered because you did. And of course, when you're taking away, everybody's leaving with tons of notes because of all the practices that are shared. You're going home with stuff that's directed toward helping you expand the range of your purpose and the impact that you're having and the scale of your business. So you do that always. So you always share such great stuff. And just as my own little, you didn't ask me to do this, but you're someone in this profession to be admired. Every time I show up at any of your events, they're always first class. The content's always good. And everybody that comes out says really positive things about the impact. I've never had a negative response. And I know a lot of people who are in your program, have done your program. Never once have I had a negative response from anybody. And there's very few people that I could say that about. So I just want to acknowledge you and the work you're doing. Well,
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's great. Just, I would say the same about you, for decades, the impact that you've made, your name is always associated with something great, some type of impact that you made in their life. So, that's a core value, and it's a standard of excellence. And I appreciate too, I know that you get invited all over the world, and you're very particular about the events that you speak at. So it is truly an honor to have you at the elite events.
Yeah, my pleasure to be there. Yeah, I'm at this point, I'm doing maybe 3 Chiro events a year. I'm turning down probably 80 or 90% of the invites. I just turned down 2 this morning. It's just because my production schedule revealed, et cetera. I just, I have to keep open space. But, when you called, it was like, I got to show up because it's you. And I was happy to do it. And just did Cal Jam a couple weeks ago, which was a whole lot of fun, I have to admit.
Yeah, it is. So. That's awesome. Yeah, in fact, Billy, we have our October seminar in Chicago again, which I would love to have you. It's up to you. Check your schedule. But we're going to have Billy and Zano and Borio and the whole top shelf lineup. It'll be great. If you can make it, I'd love to have you. If you're hung up, it's all good.
Let me know the dates. October, believe it or not, one of the things that came out of Christ Revealed is the number one thing people were pining for was Israel tours. So I'm going to be in Israel for like 3 weeks doing tours.
Oh, nice.
Because we did our Christ Revealed tour in a certain way. And now we got so many people who would like to have the experience firsthand. So we're literally organizing tours right now. So I have a feeling.
Shoot, man, maybe I should just cancel my seminar and go to Israel tour. To be honest with you, that's something I've always wanted to do. And heck, what a great group to go with, man.
Oh, God.
Let me know when it is. I'm going to be in. If you're going to do more than one, I'm already in. We just got to work.
We've got 2 scheduled, so I'm sure one of those won't be when your seminar is at least.
Okay, good. Because I'm serious. I want to do that.
I can promise you'll be one of the greatest experiences of your life. So I'll make sure that you're on the Christ Revealed list, I'm sure. So we'll be announcing it soon, but we can talk directly. I already have 2 other UACers saying, "Hey, when is it? I'm in." So
that's awesome.
It'd be fun if you guys all kind of did it together.
Yeah.
We only take 50 at a time, so
that'd be awesome.
One bus. And we have the greatest tour guide in Israel, this gal who did our tour, who was amazing. I mean, can you imagine? She got us permits to take a camera crew into the tour.
I saw that. Yeah. Cool. Hey, well, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Sorry I can't make UAC in March, but we'll see you coming up in July. And just, more importantly, just thanks for all you do, and thanks for who you are.
Well, you'll be there in spirit. Thank you for all you're doing too, and looking forward to connecting. And hopefully, when you're out here in Park City skiing, we'll get a couple runs in together.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Thanks, Fred.
Peace.